In the presence of Ril, the bold, and these knights of Ril, I do solemnly promise, covenant, and vow that I will from this day forward militantly and with deepest devotion, now and hereafter,
dedicate myself to the Knights of Ril. I furthermore promise, covenant, and vow perpetual service and loyalty to my fellow Knights of Ril
in every field of endeavor. And I will be an active opponent of chaos or any cause that would pose a threat to the greatest good of my fellow men.
I furthermore promise, covenant, and vow that I will wage constant warfare against ignorance, the forces of evil, and the forces of chaos that would enslave or debauch the wisdom of the heart, and the strength of consciences that is the Ril's greatest gift.
I furthermore promise, covenant, and vow that I will each day that I live, and each life thereafter, strive to be better than I have ever been before, that I will uphold order through strength
of
and
arms and a heart. I furthermore promise, covenant, and vow to pay homage in Ril's square or on the field of battle, honoring Ril's the bold, creator of swords and shields, and those firstborn,
honoring the art of battle until the last sunset. So mote it be.
Thanks everybody for joining me. Today we are going to be talking to W.D. Kilpack about his new series, the New Blood series. 2 books out right now, The Crown Prince and The Order of Light. I have dived into The Crown Prince and started to work into The Order of Light. Really excited, great fantasy novels. But before we kind of talk about the books, let's talk a little bit about you yourself. So, tell me a little bit, what got you into writing?
Well, I've always been telling stories, for as long as I could remember. And before I could actually write, I would draw pictures of like spaceships fighting and drawing the laser blasts and erase parts of the ship as they got blown up and that sort of thing. So I have blown up the USS Enterprise about 10,000 times.
Cool. Which one, Picard or Kirk?
That was Kirk then.
Oh, well.
Picard wasn't even imagined yet.
Nobody's perfect yet, I guess, anyway. So, what was the first thing you ever wrote?
Well, the first thing I wanted to do was be a cartoonist. So I wrote a lot of superhero stuff, starting, well, probably kindergarten. I wrote a lot of my own kind of comic strip sort of thing, making up my own heroes. I wanted to own my own comic book company, and that was my dream until I was 12 when I wrote my first fantasy novel. And I had a teacher in gifted and talented and language arts, Mrs. Farron, and she let me do a new chapter of the book for every writing assignment in those 2 classes. And that was just, it was amazing that she was that supportive, and I guess saw some potential there.
Yeah, that's exactly what teachers are supposed to do, You still have it?
I do.
Yeah. You gonna expand on it, and after you finish the 8 books of the New Order or the New Blood?
Yes, and I actually already have some over the years, but I do have the original handwritten yellowed page out of a notepad, the ruled paper and stuff. I still have them.
That's cool. So, fantasy. Mm-hmm. Why fantasy?
Well, I've always just been drawn to science fiction and fantasy, and it's always spoken to me. And one of the things with both is that they both use distortion. They use exaggeration to make something a little more obvious, a little more apparent in terms of human condition or characterization, that sort of thing. And that is something that I always found appealing. And so one of the things that I do with my writing is I do something that I call realistic fantasy. And realistic fantasy is more where the people are real people. They make mistakes, they die, they have doubts. A lot of these things that a lot of times in fantasy, it's this kind of escapism, this sort of a mythological thing where everything is perfect. And that is, there's a time and a place. There are times where if that's what you want, then you know how to get that. There's plenty of stuff out there like that. And my stuff is, is not so much that. It's more reality based, that people, they don't swing a longsword for a half hour and just keep going. After a few minutes of swinging a 30-pound sword, your arm gets tired.
Yeah, and I think there's a kind of a draw for that now, and a lot of the modern fantasy has that. A character you've fallen in love with is killed suddenly, and it's devastating to the reader. It's like the new genre of fantasy. It really is. Let's talk a little bit about The Crown Prince, because it's the one that I've read. I'm still, like I said, getting into the Order of the Light. It has some pretty dark moments in it. What? And we've talked about the realism, but one of the things that drew me into the book was the very first part of it. Can we do a little spoiler?
Okay, go ahead.
No, I want you to do a little spoiler. Tell me a little bit about the main character and his gift, or his curse, as he seems to call it.
Well, the main character, Nathar, he has sight. He can see into the future, and sometimes he can see into the past if he touches things that were significant to something in the past. And so he is the guardian of Merrick, and it's a lifetime position where you have to have sight in order to have this role. And so he knows that things are coming. He knows that there's going to be a big upheaval. The king's going to be overthrown. And he and his father, who was the guardian of Merrick before him, they've been planning for literally decades for this event, because they knew it was coming, in order for him to take the newborn crown prince and escape and raise him so that he could come back to the throne. So one of the things with that is, in the opening of the book, you've got multiple things going on. You've got the crown prince being born. You've got the capital city is under siege, and Nathar, some of these people, like the captain of the guard, is pretty much his best friend, but he knows he's going to die. And he has learned over time that if he tries to stop things that are that significant, it often makes them worse.
Okay.
And so he can't tell some of these people. He knows they're not gonna make it, and he can't tell them, because then it can make things turn in an even worse direction.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Kind of mentality, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I guess a little bit of a spoiler is at the beginning. In the first chapter, there's a moment where the captain of the guard leaves, and Nathar is just watching him go, because he knows it's the last time he's ever going to see him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the next chapter, I spend a chapter with the captain of the guard, and so you get to see him interacting with the soldiers and seeing how capable he is, and he's a good man. But you know that Nathar knows he's going to die, and so you get to know him, and you get to like him, and you get to have this feeling. It's like, well, but he'll change that, right? That Carl's not actually going to die. He's going to be able to fix this, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit. I'm going to throw a curveball question at you.
All right.
A lot of authors base their characters on people they know. Did you do that in this?
Well, I think that every writer has their main character that something is a little bit autobiographical. I think that everybody does that. And then there are people that I have deliberately woven in some of characteristics of people that either I know personally or people from history that some sort of aspect of the character. One of the things with Nathar, for example, is something from college. One of my majors was in philosophy, and there are elements of Socrates in Nathar, because Socrates would go into a trance-like state, which he called being seized by the demon of philosophy, and come out of it with these major epiphanies. And so that Nathar does that. He is seized by the demon of sight. And sometimes he is frozen solid, that he can't even move a muscle while he is seized. And so that is one of the things that it fascinated me in college, and so I knew I was going to put that in one of my characters somewhere. And so that's, a little bit of history, and I spent a lot of years as a very active athlete, and so Nathar's got a lot of my injuries and those types of things, because I know firsthand what they feel like and what kind of impact they have on your everyday life, and those things are real.
And again, I think that draws you into him and draws you into the character more, because he does have those. We can relate with a lot of those things, right? Magic. Let's talk a little magic.
Okay.
There is magic in the book,
right?
But you like to base it more of a scientific kind of aspect.
Well, I don't know if I would say scientific necessarily, but if you think about it, back when people believed that by and large, when they believed in magic, magic was the science. That there were things that they didn't understand how they worked, and so they would figure out as much as they were capable of at the time, and then the rest of the explanation was attributed to some greater force.
Okay.
And so that was magic. And so as far as what I do with realistic fantasy is that sometimes the magic in some fantasy novels gets so big and so grand, it's almost like they're trying to make it like fireworks. And it can eclipse the story or the characters themselves. And so for me, magic is much more pragmatic. And so you meet him at the end of Crown Prince, but he's a primary character in Order of Light. Ellis the Elder builds mysterious things.
Okay.
And so the most magic that you see is actually in objects that he has created. And then how that happens is explained over several books, and you get to see him make some things in book 2 where he does things like smells them, listens to them, licks them, using all of his senses to determine what needs to be changed.
That was a good segue, though. You said books. How many books in this series?
There's 8.
Eight books. And you've got them pretty much planned out already, right?
They are all written, they're all primarily written.
Okay.
And there were things where just at times, sometimes I get writing and it's just, so much of it is just coming out. I got to get it down or it will seep through the cracks.
Yeah.
And so there were times where I was just writing it and I knew I was going to come back and flesh this out more. And then later, in maybe 3 books later, I fleshed out that part. So then I have to come back and weave it back in earlier. Mm-hmm. So in essence, I am sort of editing all the books at the same time. But they're all written to, they're pretty solid, all of them, in the stage that they're in.
Yeah.
But there are things that need to be, there's some things in terms of some cultures in the world that I expanded upon later, and why wouldn't they at least know that part sooner?
Yeah.
And so I go back and do a little bit of revision that way.
I have to say, one of the things that I have enjoyed about the 2 books, they blend well together. You know, they're that little puzzle, and they leave you wanting more, and that's what I enjoy when it comes to the storytelling, and the fact that you sell them, you know, in an actual physical form. We've talked about this before, how there's just something about a book, having it in your hands. Smell is such a strong memory trigger. And I have great memories myself of reading and smelling that paper, fresh print, the ink. How can people find these?
The easiest way is on Amazon.
Okay.
And if you go to my official author website, which is kilpack.net, that's Kilpack with one L, KILPACK.net. There are banner ads right there on the main page that take you right to it, so you can order it on Amazon. And
they come rather quickly too. I mean, I got mine, I think, within days of ordering it.
Typically, they do around Christmas. Everything slowed down around Christmas.
Yeah, that's true.
But right now they're in print and they're in ebook and Kindle Unlimited. Audiobooks are in the plan, but I'm still working with that, figuring that out. I have done a couple sample author readings, which are also on the website, and I do plan on doing that. And one of the things, my wife, of course, I read these to her at night, her bedtime stories, and she has told me that I should read my own for the audiobooks, that I should do that, she likes my voice, and I just thought, well, she's my wife, she better. But
I don't feel anything being thrown at it. Okay.
So that wasn't going too far. But I've had since I've posted them, I've had people make very positive comments about them. I was like, oh, well, okay, I guess it's not just that my wife is biased. And so
there's other things that you can do on the website other than just click to Amazon, which I suggest you do. Go to the link, order the book, and then follow him on Amazon so you know when the new books are coming. But let's talk about the Knights.
Okay. On the website, you can become a member of the Knights of Rill. And what that does is that, first of all, you receive the vows of the Knights of Rill. And you don't see that in book 1, but you do see it in book 2. And I have had people that started sending me videos of themselves reciting the Knights of Rill.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool.
Yeah.
It's just, people just started sending me photos of themselves holding my book and things like that I just didn't see coming. And having the support has been so amazing that I haven't had, Order of Light is still new, but with Crown Prince, I haven't had a single critic say anything negative.
Yeah.
And the reviews have been just outstanding. And the people sending me the photos and the videos and just comments, and
it makes it worth it.
Yeah.
It makes every author enjoys that feedback from their readers. They want to know what their readers are thinking. And I've talked to a lot of authors throughout the years, and one of the things they always love is when they get that letter. How dare you do that? Are you what? And that makes you realize I've affected someone, which is really cool. So again, W.D. Kilpack, pleasure talking to you, talking about the books. Best way to find him is the website. Give the website again.
Kilpack.net. KILPACK.net.
And then you can actually click on the banners, go to Amazon, follow him. That way you know when the new books are coming out. You can order these. I highly recommend them. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us.